The devil's in the details, and they put it in a book. They had the audacity to put it in a book, and it goes to the heart of what they think about the American public. That's what it tells me. That you were so bold as to put this in writing and think that a majority of Americans would want this as a policy for their country, which is dismantling the government from within. They said that America is not going to be taken down by external forces.
That's
It's
right.
going to be taken down by internal force, the enemy from within.
Yes.
And if that's not the enemy from within, then I don't know what it would be. Welcome, Posse, to the Black Man's Round Table with the Roundup with Rodney and Rodney. I'm Rodney Littles.
And I'm Rodney Butler. Hey, Rodney, man, how's it going? I know you've been busy for the last few days since the last time we did an episode, but how's things going with you?
Yes, sir. Getting down close to the election, man. Just a couple more weeks, and we on the grind.
On the grind. Look, I know we got a loaded show tonight. We're going to talk
Yes,
about,
sir.
we're going to do a couple of, I believe we're going to do a couple of hot topics. So
Yes,
without
sir.
further ado, we can go ahead on and get started, and you can let the people know what's happening.
Well, our guest tonight was supposed to be Marshall Taggart, Assistant Vice President at Clark Atlanta University for Governmental Affairs. As he was heading to the computer, he had to turn around and go back to the office because he got a call from the boss saying that the Harris campaign is going to be on campus. And that's his job. So we're going to reschedule him at another time. And tonight it's going to be the Rodney Rodney Roundup. We're going to get it in.
Hey, man, it sounds good. Look, when you start inviting vice presidents home, then sometime you might get a president to call him up. So, but it's all good. He's a very busy guy. That's a very important. And he was very disappointed. He really wanted to be here. He was gonna try to hook it up remote and do all kinds of stuff. It's like no. We want for you to just get everything out. We don't want for you to rush through anything. And plus you're back at the office. We kind of want you, in the home. So. Yeah. So anyway, we'll get him. We'll reschedule. He'll be back on. For those people that was really looking forward to hearing what he had to say, we will get Mr. Taggart back on.
No problem. I'm looking forward to it. But we have Bobby Fryer of Politics Corner. He's going to bring us some updated information. Listen in. This is critical. Come on, Bobby. Where you at, bro?
What's happening, Rodney? Rodney!
What's up, Bobby? What's up, Bobby? What's going on, brother?
Oh, man, everything. It's a lot going on. Obviously, I had to go to Augusta 2 Saturdays ago to go get my family that was dealing with the after effects of Hurricane Helene. A lot of trees down. It was crazy. No gas. They're out of power. No running water. All those kind of things. So I just happened to get back in town from Mexico where we saw the storm 2 days prior. So I had to get the family out of there just to make sure they weren't sitting down there with no power and no water. So these are my dad's siblings. So hey, look, let's go.
So a little bit older crowd and stuff like
Yes.
that. Man. And
Yes.
Augusta really got the brunt of it, I believe, in Georgia.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad that, your family is doing well and everybody is, out of harm's way. But it's amazing, man. You got to see that thing prior to the U.S. and then in the U.S. Well, not the actual hurricane, but some of the destruction of it.
Yeah, I did. We actually were 2 days without power or water. We were in Cancun. It's a little island called Isla Mujeres.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw it. It sat over us for a full day, when we were dealing with it. So we saw it, a couple days before everybody else did. But I was just surprised to see my family in Augusta dealing with that because you just don't hear much about hurricanes affecting Augusta. And we followed the path of the storm while we were out of the country. And all we were hearing was Tampa and Tallahassee. So, but it was like a war zone when I went there.
Oh, man.
It was definitely like a war zone with all those trees.
Right.
Yep.
Well, prayers for the family and friends and neighbors.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Appreciate
glad everybody's doing okay, Bobby. Let's hit us with the politics corner, man. What you got for us?
Yep. So, as we know, the effects of Hurricane Helene have hit the East Coast pretty hard. And there's been a lot of focus and attention on North Carolina. And so what's so really disgusting is all the misinformation that's been passed around about the response. to Hurricane Helene. Now, listen, I'm not saying that any response is going to be perfect, but just stop lying about what actually took place is what's the problem. So for anybody that doesn't know, President Biden actually signed off for emergency disaster relief before the storm ever hit. He signed off on it ahead of time. And then what you have is you have a certain felon that goes out and says that, that Governor Brian Kemp has been trying to reach him and he hasn't talked to him, and local officials, they're waiting to hear back, which was all a total lie. And so as a result of that, you see so much misinformation spread by low information voters about the response. And one thing in particular was about the $750. So what I've actually learned a lot through all this lying and misinformation, because if you had asked me prior to how does it actually work with FEMA, I wouldn't have known. But through the lies that you start digging and fact finding, you say, okay, I didn't know that. So the $750 is actually standard for everybody across the board. It's for, just emergency assistance with food and water and things like that, just to get you on your feet. It's not the be all end all. And people were talking about it as though that's it. They only get $750. No, there are grants that come in statewide with your local government. There's grants there. And then there's grants from the federal government. And what people don't realize is that FEMA has been underfunded for years. And that is not the fault of the president. That is the fault of Congress. Okay. So when people see this stuff and they just want to take it and run with it because we're in the crazy cycle, we're a month before the election. And so when this type of misinformation is put out there, it's designed to purposely stir chaos. All right. So you have to just separate the nonsense and listen to who it's coming from and realize why they're spreading that kind of misinformation. So people are just up in arms about things that they see, certain videos. I'm not doubting that there are people that need help on the ground that may not have received their help yet. All right. I don't doubt that. I don't know what disaster efforts that anybody's seen where everybody is scooped up and everything's good by the snap of a finger. I don't. That never happened. I mean, this response is obviously much better than what happened in New Orleans with Katrina. That was disgraceful. But this is not the same thing. And you're going to always have people that are still in need of help. So we're not diminishing that. But the spread of misinformation is unacceptable. So here's a few things. Your eligibility requirements. Here, let's read that real quick. I wound up pulling up some information on that. How are you eligible for FEMA funding? So here's what I found.
Okay.
This is eligibility for public assistance and grant funding. So there are 4 basic components of eligibility. They are the applicant, the facility, work, and cost. So I'm going to briefly read those out. An applicant must be a state, territory, tribe, local government, or certain type of private nonprofit organization. A facility must be a building, public works system, equipment, or improved and maintained natural feature. Work is categorized as either emergency or permanent. It must be required as a result of the declared incident, located within the designated disaster area, and is the legal responsibility of the eligible applicant. And finally, costs. Costs are expenses tied directly to eligible work and must be adequately documented, authorized, necessary, and reasonable. Eligible costs include labor, equipment, materials, contract work, and management costs. So there's different type of categories for work, and each one has a different role and responsibility. And just people need to know, you should try to get, if you've obviously had some damage, you should try to apply for eligibility in the case of these type of natural disasters. But we can't just go by this misinformation where you have local officials pleading to stop the misinformation. I mean, it's everything from people saying, I don't know, through internet or what have you, about people being trapped in a certain area and they need help. And they're going there and finding nobody there. It's just a waste of time. It's just disgraceful. So you have that going on. The National Guard is on the ground helping. It's discouraging to them when you're spreading lies and misinformation. It makes it look like nobody has their stuff together. It's all just a just unorganized, an unorganized mess. Let's just put it that way. So, there's all of that that's going on. And again, it's all because of deliberately starting chaos and misinformation. And I just can't understand why that's acceptable to anybody. So it's funny that the people that are complaining about Congress being underfunded, well, guess who's been delivering the no votes
That's it.
for funding more?
Republicans, 100 of them.
Republicans, okay? And the names are on record. You can look it up. It's not a hidden secret. And one of the names in particular that stands out to me is Matt Gaetz. You're in Florida. Why are you voting against emergency funds, right? So now Biden is trying to call a special session to come in for more funds, okay? These funds get depleted very quickly. And now that you have another hurricane coming right after this one, I'm sure there's going to be even more damage, more chaos, more things that need to be sorted out. More rescue efforts. It's going to be chaotic, I'm sure. But, these things happen. So the two final things. One, the felon that's spreading the misinformation, the main one responsible for this. Let me just be clear to people that don't know this. In 2019, he took money from the FEMA Disaster Relief Fund for migrant programs at the border. $271 million from DHS, including $155 million from FEMA, was used for detaining and transporting undocumented immigrants and temporary hearing locations for asylum seekers. This is around August of 2019, which is at the beginning of hurricane season. All right. That's how irresponsible he was with this. So for him to be the one turning around and saying, oh, it's a terrible response and, they're not doing enough. Well, you were part of the problem as far as the money that's available. OK, so I'm just amazed at what's going on in our country right now. And to politicize it even more, and this is my final point, you have Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who's playing political games when Vice President Kamala Harris is reaching out about, resources that they may need ahead of this storm that's oncoming. And he's saying, oh, I didn't know she called. I didn't realize that she had called. How are you a sitting governor? You don't know if the president or the vice president of the United States is calling you to see if you need anything else prior to a storm coming your way. That's irresponsible and it's silly. So to politicize this, you're playing games with people's lives. I don't understand where we are in this country at this point to where that's acceptable. It should never be acceptable. So I want to hear your thoughts.
It has a lot to do with character and leadership. That's what it has to do with. And he didn't want to look like the governor of New Jersey when President Obama came to his aid. Because it's all about politics. It's not about the people. And that's what we're dealing with. And thank you so much for that point about the transferring of funds. That's exactly what he accused the vice president of doing, who doesn't have the authority. She's not the president.
Correct.
And exactly what he did when he was president and accused her of doing it, and they're not. I don't know what the public is going to do to get through the lies and understand that every time this man breathes, he lies. I don't understand what the audience is he's trying to get to, because I can't see that swinging votes that may be on the fence. I don't see it.
Rodney, you know what? I tell you what I can see. I can see that, first of all, I can see the frustration, right? The frustration that I'm having, the passionate frustration that Bobby is having, that you're having. And look, a lot of this is really kind of magnifying the privilege that those guys have in this country. Let's just be real. Let's just be real. If they looked, this is a Black Man's Roundtable, right? If they look like us, I promise you, Ron DeSantis would not be able to play these boyish games. Right. Donald Trump would not be able to get away with the lies. The media would eat him alive if he looked like us. Let's just say that, look, I'm not saying it's all privilege, but privilege is being magnified. And I just hope people are looking at it. But I'm glad that, and I hope, like Bobby said, right? Bobby said he wouldn't know all this stuff about FEMA if it wasn't for if it wasn't for Trump's lies. He's learning, right?
Yeah.
Something else I hope people are learning. I hope people are learning that learning about narcissism and what it looks like. And one of the key fundamental things that a narcissist does is project. They project, what they are or what they're doing onto somebody else. Mm-hmm. So Donald Trump already knows all that money that he funded and illegally and changed, and moved it around. And so like when Bobby talked about it in his part, in his segment, but guess what? That's to say, hey, he know he's done it. And now it's like, if y'all start talking about that, then y'all like, hey, y'all just picking on me. I brought it up first. And it's just that boyish thing, man. Mm-hmm. And it's just straight projecting what you do or what you did on somebody else.
Right.
It is very, very frustrating. It is very frustrating what some people are allowed to get away with. We're not going to sit here and talk about some of the things that, men that, look like us are being just raked over the charcoal over the hot flames right now, and we don't even have facts, but we can have facts. We can have everything that we need to show that this person is lying, but their privilege is on display.
It's totally obvious. The standard that Vice President Kamala Harris is being held to in her campaign versus the felon, it's stark.
It's ridiculous.
And this election should not be close. I'm disgusted. I don't get much into the polls. I don't care whether it's good or bad. I don't get much into it. But this should be a runaway election. From Vice President Harris. So
if it's based on truth and principles,
yes,
that's exactly what it should be.
And character.
Should be. And character. Integrity. Yeah. And even policy. I mean, she's laying out policies.
Laying it out.
And I'm going to say this. For black voters, okay? I'm going to say this specifically to black voters who are not paying attention to not only the policies that she's doing, but what's happening currently in office. All right? Mm-hmm. So you have this administration has been trying to decriminalize cannabis. Mm-hmm. Okay? How many people do we know, whether personally or not, that are in jail due to cannabis, all right? Mm-hmm. Serving long sentences, all right? What would that do to free them, okay? And it would decriminalize. It should not be in the same schedule as cocaine and crack and heroin and meth. Mm-hmm. It should not be in the same category as that. That's one thing, right? Yes, but if you're listening, black voters, if you have medical debt on your credit, to have that removed increases your credit score. All right. To have $6,000 if you're starting a family as a child tax credit, that helps. If you're trying to start a business and you're talking about $50,000 to help you start a business, pay attention. And if you're trying to get a new home, it's $20,000, 20 or 25.
It's 20 now.
Okay, $20,000 to start a home. I mean, towards a home. I'm in real estate. So when I hear people say, oh, they're just going to raise the price. Folks, let me just explain something to you, okay? When you have a scarcity of homes on the market, all right, that is a buyer's market. I'm sorry, it's a seller's market, okay? It's a seller's market, okay? Because there aren't many available. So when you sell, you can sell at a higher price. When you have an abundance of properties that are available,
price comes down.
Price comes down, all right? Now it's a buyer's market, okay? Mm-hmm. So people understand when they say this stuff, hey, look, builders are going to get their money. They're going to get their money regardless, okay? If I can sell 50 homes at $400,000, okay, and because you're getting a credit, I'm going to raise it, okay? Well, you're just starting getting a home, all right? And guess what? To raise the price after those are sold, you know where that equity goes? It goes to you.
That's right.
When you try to sell your home. So if they raise the prices after you bought something, good. Good for you. The whole neighborhood, good. So people have to I wish people would really just break down and listen and pay attention to what's being offered to get you started.
And stop making things so difficult and so complex. Right. What you basically did, Bobby, you just gave a capitalism 101 lesson that that's basically talking about supply and demand. That applies to everything. Why are you gonna let somebody fool you that it doesn't apply to housing or real estate? It applies to everything. We're in a capitalist society. It's all about supply and demand. But one of the things, since you brought up, Bobby, in the politics corner, you brought up about the agencies, right, and how they've been underfunded. Republicans, like you talked about, have underfunded so many agencies that it is crazy, right? And they want to get rid of NOAA. And NOAA is the one who gave Ron DeSantis, I think it was NOAA, one of the agencies, one of the weather agencies that deals with that, gave him the information about what could happen with one of the worst storms to hit Florida, and he admitted that it is exactly what they told him some 4 years ago or whatever was about to happen right now with what's the thing, Milton Milton, the current one. And so, but I also want to highlight, because I know Rodney, I know you want to say something. I also want to highlight two other agencies, right? That Republicans were instrumental in not defunding, but limiting the funds, right? And how it's come back to bite us right here recently. And those two agencies, I actually wrote them down so I wouldn't forget them, is FEMA, which is happening right now, and the other one is the Secret Service. The Secret Service. Right. Remember that? Republicans, they made all this noise about the Secret Service, defunded. Now those guys are overworked and just stretched out, very, very thin. So I just want people to know that, they throw rocks and then they hide their hands.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Rodney, you hit on Project 2025 right there, my friend. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are in the blueprint for a 45 administration if he gets back in. So what we're talking about is eliminating flood insurance. That's what they're talking about.
Sure.
They're talking about, as you said, NOAA. They're talking about eliminating the departments in FEMA that would have help in funding some of these emergencies. This is incredible. And while they're denying climate change.
I was just about to say it.
And we're seeing it in our faces. The voters need to take a look at the representatives that represent them and see who voted against climate change funding that was passed during this current administration. That's what they need to do. They also need to look up, as Bobby said, and we're only talking about a few weeks ago now. It was 100 Republicans in the House of Representatives that voted against FEMA getting funding. 100. Find out if that's your representative.
When you got Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that the Democrats are controlling the weather, when and that, look, the storm, it said, well, the storm went up. The reason she's saying that they're controlling, the Democrats are controlling the weather is because the storm, I guess went to this path that there's a lot of Republican districts, and it's like, what are you talking about?
Yes. Mother Nature.
Mother Nature is a Democrat. Well, if Mother Nature is a Democrat, then we need to vote nothing but vote all blue.
Mother Nature's a Democrat. I like that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So Bobby, hey, once again, man, we appreciate your politics corner. It really always get us started. We definitely gave you more time today since our special guest, we're not going to be able to make it today, and we'll reschedule him. So we definitely appreciate you, man. You always bring it, Bobby, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure as always. I appreciate it. Enjoy your show. Have a blessed day.
Yes, sir.
My friend.
Be safe.
Appreciate your input, bro.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Man, the posse is very, very blessed to have a young brother like that who's on top of the issues, man.
Yeah, man. Bobby, he kicks it off, with the politics corner every show, and it really gets us a little fired up and ready to go.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah. And so right now, I know we got a couple of hot topics, and a lot of it got to go because it's crunch time.
Yes,
it's crunch time, and so
yes,
I know that people may want to hear a little bit more of some of the other things that we have to talk about, and we will. And one of the things we were going to do with Associate VP Taggart on tonight was going to do some of that, right?
Yes,
to get away from politics a little bit and kind of talk about, you know, some of the things that he wanted to talk about in education. You know, that's very, very, that's, go ahead, say it again.
Black men in education.
Right, the black men in education. And so, you know, so we're going to, you know, but hey, it's crunch time, man. This is the election, you know, of our lifetime. And with all the misinformation and disinformation that's out there, we're gonna focus on a few of those in our hot topics, and then, you know, of course, we have our spotlight coming up. So Rodney, kick it off, man.
Oh, my friend, this week, the Georgia State Board of Elections had a meeting on Tuesday, and there was a big sparring over the Fulton County's election monitoring plan. I'm going to read this from ABC News because I don't want to mess up anything.
Got it.
I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm just going to get it started so we can chop it up. The Georgia State Elections Board is embroiled in a fight with the most populous county over an election monitoring team with less than a month to go before voters go to the polls. This was reported on Tuesday, October 8th. With less than a month to go before voters head to the polls, the State Board of Elections is embroiled in a fight with Georgia's most populous county over a monitoring team to observe the county's election practices. This is during the election. The monitoring team was part of a resolution of a complaint against Fulton County stemming from the 2020 election. The State Election Board in May found that the county violates some parts of the state election code. It voted to issue a letter of reprimand, which included instructions for an agreement on a mutually accepted monitor to be entered into the board's August meeting. But the county and state elections board have been unable to reach agreement. It's supposed to be mutual. The county favors the team proposed by Ryan Germany, a former chief lawyer for the Secretary of State's office, and the Atlanta-based Carter Center. Now, the Carter Center does election monitoring around the world. So what happened is Donald Trump's endorsed majority on the state election board has proposed an alternative slate that includes people who question the results of the 2020 presidential election, like the three that are appointed now, that got us in court over trying to make some changes at the last minute to make it chaotic for the workers. In late August, the county went ahead and hired its team without agreement from the state board, and it has been in place monitoring pre-election practices for over a month. But the disagreement between the county and state boards continued to fester and escalated significantly this week. So on Monday, the Fulton County Board filed a lawsuit asking the judge to declare that the state's board lacks the authority to force it to accept their recommendation. This is unconscionable. This is unconscionable. First of all, it was a picky-uni issue in the first place on the 2020 election. Let's be honest, okay? But the county board did enter into an agreement to resolve this issue and to put a monitoring team in place. I can't imagine a more nonpartisan, objective group than coming out of the Carter Center. I can't imagine anybody locally in the state of Georgia.
That's right.
So this is all about politics. This is about creating additional confusion and control. So if you've got monitors that don't believe that the 2020 election was fair and that somehow it was rigged against the former president, then we got a problem. We got a problem. It's confusing the public and it's creating chaos where it doesn't need to be. That's my hot topic, my brother.
Yeah, and this is also, you ask, what is the end state? What are they trying to do? Yeah. Right? They're trying to get voter apathy. They don't want people. They want people to stay home, right? Because if people stay home, Donald Trump wins, and they know that. When Democrats come out to vote, Republicans lose. It's just that simple. So if you're a young person, if you're under 35, maybe even under 40, especially nowadays, and it's like, look at what they're doing. My vote is not going to count, so I'm not going to vote.
Right.
It is when you got this stuff going on.
Yeah.
Now we know that what's going to happen. They're not going to be able to get away with it. They're not going to be able to, because there's going to be Democrats and Republicans and independents in that room to make sure that stuff get counted correctly, right?
Absolutely.
So they just trying to, make it last longer, so that way they can say at midnight, we won, because all those, all of those, those rural counties, all of their votes come in first, obviously, because they don't have that many. It's so small, right? But these 12 Metro Atlanta counties are going to come in later, because now they got to count them. Now they got to count the sheets. Then they got to count the paper ballots and all of that. Well, if you only got 1,200 votes in your county, then it doesn't take long to count those votes, and it doesn't take long to count 1,200 sheets of paper. Correct. So, in stacks of 50 or whatever it is. So, correct. So they know, so that's what they're trying to do, Rodney. It's kind of like when we talked about, when we were talking about in the politics corner, how they trying to how the Republicans have tried to sow mistrust into the into the agencies, you know what I'm saying, into the federal agencies, and now that stuff is backfiring too.
Yes, sir.
It's backfiring on them, right? It's like,
yes,
let's defund these agencies. Let's make them to where they operate with the skeleton crew, if you will, right?
Right.
And they know things are going to fail, and now they want to blame it on the Democrats or whatever. And I think that Democrats and the media, but we can't depend on the media. I think Democrats should really get out there and talk about those kinds of things. But that's what's happening with with this state election board situation too.
Well, the whole issue and the purpose of the elections boards, whether it's the state or the counties, is to make sure that the election is done fairly and according to the book.
It's supposed to be very obscure job.
Exactly. It's not
supposed to be.
It shouldn't be such a big deal. But when you're trying to overcome an obstacle because you don't have the policies to sway the people that are going to vote, then you have to resort to other methods. And it's so obvious that you're trying to deter people from being able to vote. You're trying to create chaos. That is not the American way. That is not a patriot. We're supposed to be about encouraging, making it easier for people to vote, regardless of what your politics are, regardless of who you're going to vote for. The issue is that folks should be able to vote if they're eligible to vote without any obstacles standing in their way, period.
And I think too that's another thing, because this election cycle, the Democrats have done a pretty good job in taking back things that the Republicans once owned. I've never understood why Republicans own stuff like patriotism, things like just because they keep saying USA and waving the flag, but I never understood that. I think that many of the Republicans, the policies that the Republicans have kind of done over the past 30 years, in my opinion, as a retired Army veteran, it is multiple combat veteran, a combat tour veteran as well. The Republican Party has been one of the most unpatriotic institutions in America to me.
Well,
and I say that full-throatedly.
Yeah, I see that. I understand what you're saying, my friend. But I think people have to understand that the party has been hijacked. That there are good Republicans who can disagree with us on policy, but are Americans first and party second. And that's what's happening right now. You have a tremendous number of visible Republicans who are saying, this is about country over party. This is not about partisan politics now. This is about saving our nation. It's about having a dictator or a tyrant, or having somewhat of a democracy left. So we have to be careful when we tag the Republicans, because what we're talking about are the folks who've taken over the party. Because I can name you, I've dealt with both parties trying to get things done over my career. And these are not folks that subscribe to the party of Reagan or the party of Lincoln. It's a different crew. So unfortunately, the voices that don't go along with this direction that the party's been hijacked have to step up at this election and have to put country first, period.
Well, and I may not have said that 15 years ago, about and just label that the Republican Party is an unpatriotic institution. I may not have said that 15 years ago.
Exactly.
But let me tell you, Rodney, for me, it didn't necessarily start with him, but it definitely kind of got magnified under him. And I'm talking about Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich.
Yes.
So we have to go back as far
with America.
Exactly. We have to go back as far as that. And that's what I mean by unpatriotic. And what I'm saying when I say the party, look, the Republicans have had several opportunities, to stop this. They said that, what was that, after Obama, they said that they were going to, I can't think of the phrase. They said that they were going to, I can't think of the phrase they used, Rodney, but basically they was going to just tear the party down and put it back together. But I forget the exact phrasing that they did, that they said, that they coined with that. But either way, they had that opportunity when they would lose, when they thought the red wave was coming, but it was kind of a blue, not a blue wave, but a blue trickle or something. But it definitely wasn't a red wave. They said that they was going to go back to the chopping blocks then. They've had too many. They did the autopsy. They did the autopsy. They've had too many opportunities to do something about the unpatriotic policies and procedures that are coming out of that party. So again, I say full chest, full throated that what I see as the Republican Party is an unpatriotic institution.
It's the party.
They had too long. Again, Rodney, 15 years ago, 20. If it hadn't been so long that they've been doing this, you know what I'm saying? Then it's like,
I agree.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They're going to take their party back, the sensible Republicans. But even when you look at all of the leftover used to be sensible Republicans, these guys, well, just like Tim Walz say, these guys are just as weird as the Marjorie Taylor Greens.
I hear you, my friend. I hear you. Well, we're gonna hope that saner minds prevail, and that the voters will take a hard look at the facts and the policies that are being proposed, and they'll vote in their best interest. That's what we can hope for going into this November. We got 4 weeks left, and there's not much time. But it appears as though the strategy that I'm seeing with the Democratic candidate for president, Vice President Kamala Harris, and Governor Walz, they are micro-targeting their communications and who gets to see them and what channels they're on. They were on Call Daddy. I think it was Call My Daddy.
Yeah, call her Daddy. The podcast, yep.
Podcast. Excellent. So they're targeting very targeted venues in order to get their message across, because that's where the populace is. That's where the voters are. You have to go where they are. And they're trying to capture those votes that may not watch the 6 o'clock news, may not watch the national news.
Yep.
You follow?
Well, Rodney, you've heard me say right here on this platform that, look, I know that the Black Man's Roundtable is not some mega platform, but I've said that small, medium, large, super large, like Call Her Daddy, all of the people are moving away from mainstream media. And they
Yes.
absolutely need to. This is why these podcasts are so they're so popular and they
Yes.
are growing,
Right.
because we're not in the pockets of nobody. We just telling it like it is, right? We don't
Yes.
have, billionaires that own us and saying, here's the narrative you're gonna put out, right?
Gonna put out.
And these
Yeah.
people are not journalists on
Right.
MSNBC and CNN
Right.
and even they're news readers, man. They
Yes,
know how to
sir.
read a teleprompter very, very
Yes.
well, right? And
Yes, sir.
so, but you asked them what they talked about yesterday. They don't know. You just read
No.
a teleprompter, and so,
That's right.
so yeah, I'm glad that the Harris Walls campaign are out here talking to podcasts, but also they local media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Local media.
Exactly.
If people want to watch mainstream media,
Exactly.
it's going to be the local stuff,
That's
because
correct.
people want to know what the traffic is like. People want to know,
That's right.
what the weather is like and that kind of thing. What happened overnight, in their neighborhoods and
Right.
stuff. And so, that is what So and they're doing that. They're talking to the local
Right.
media. The only thing that these guys are about on these major network and these cable channels is gotcha moments. They won't talk about all the things that the lies and the mis just all the miscommunication, or I'm sorry, misinformation and
Misinformation. Yeah.
disinformation
Yes.
that they're talking about. They won't expose it, because they
Right.
want those eyes, man. They want those eyes. So I'm glad they pivoted from that, Rodney.
Yeah. I tell you, you talk about misinformation. That's a major concern. I think that I've said this a long time ago that if I have a product and I'm advertising it on media, print or mass media, I have to abide by the laws in which I can't tell a lie about my product. I could get sued for that. I don't think any politician should be, or political group, PAC, should be able to put an ad on television or in print media unless it's the truth. There should be a test. And if it's aired on that station or that newspaper, then there should be a penalty that medium should have to pay for permitting that misinformation, those lies to be broadcast, because it's disinformation, and in some cases it's straight out lies, and it's not helpful to the public. It's damaging to the public. There should be some truth in advertising for political ads. Period.
They are letting these guys get away with putting sound bites together.
Yes.
Sound bites. It's like that one with. It's so obvious that ad with Kamala Harris and the the trans people in the jails or prisons or whatever, right? It is so
Mm-hmm.
obvious that those are sound bites, kind of put together to make it seems like
Mm-hmm.
she is supporting for transsexual individuals for them to be able to get surgery or be able to become transsexual while they're in prison, when the only thing that she's advocating for and the only thing that she made happen was allowing for them to get the medical care that they need while
Period.
they are
That's
while they're
correct.
locked up. They
That's
are
correct.
citizens. They
Yes,
are still
sir.
citizens, right? So we want them to
Yes.
just have all kind of something that they got done on the outside, and when they get on the
Mm-hmm.
inside of the prison, we just want to, it's like it was, what, Rodney, it'd be like saying, well, look, you contracted some communicable disease while you were on the
Right.
outside, or you know got I don't know, diagnosed with diabetes while you was on the outside. So now you're
Right.
here. We're not going to treat your communicable disease, or we're not going to treat your diabetes. Now, I'm not
Right.
trying to make it sound like having a sex change operation is a disease. I'm not doing that at all. But
No, I know what you mean.
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to show how just silly it is. Just how
Right.
ludicrous it is to say that if you did something on the outside, we're not going to help you on the inside with it, inside of
Correct.
the penitentiary and stuff like that. And it's just amazing how, like I said, how the mainstream media won't call out into this stuff, man. It is amazing.
That's definitely depressing, because when they said they were going to ban fact checking at the vice presidential debate, I'm like, what? What do you mean? That was a criteria for going on the debate? Is you're not going to fact check me? Come on, man.
Rodney, what it shows is that they will sell their soul in
Yes.
order to get, people like J.D. Vance or Donald Trump to sit down with them, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, and look, I understand some uh mediums not fact checking, right? Because they don't claim to be like our show, right? Like this podcast. We don't claim to be journalists. So if you come and tell some lies or whatever, we may know. If we know your line, we're going to tell you right there on the spot. But we may not know your line. But who was it? CB or who did the last one? The was it ABC that did the
I believe it was ABC.
ABC, yeah, I think that did the no, I think it was CBS. Yeah, I think it was CBS. It was CBS that did the vice presidential debate.
Oh, vice presidential debate.
Right. I'm sorry. I should have said that first. But to for you to already agree that we're not going to fact check you, and then and when she fact checked them, that JD Vance that one time, that man went ballistic and said, "I thought we wasn't going to fact check, but since you're fact checking," and then he just went on and rambled off a bunch of lies, right? And but she allowed for him to lie, and then they cut off the mic or something. But at any rate, for you to, but that debate came out of the CBS news department, right? That's supposed to be a news thing, and you allowing lies, and but you're staging yourself as a news outlet, to sit down and say, hey, don't worry about it, we're not going to fact check you. So people should just really, I hope that people are really paying attention. People are really learning what who controls these outlets, these media companies and stuff like that, these newspapers and stuff. I just hope they're paying attention.
Well, as I would tell any young person who is thinking about voting and is not sure, do your homework. It's there. Growing up, I didn't have access like the internet to fact check. I had to go to the library to find something or read a newspaper. So today, you can dig in very deep into positions and statements that people have made because it's documented. You can find clips of what people actually said their policies are, where they stand on a position, or what they've done in life. And the last thing I want to say on the issue, because I know it's hot, bro, I think the character of the country's got to improve, because this is about the character of the candidates. And if you accept the character of the person who's running as the presidential nominee on the Republican Party, then you've got a character problem yourself. And that's Absolutely. What we have to be worried about in this country. We've got to improve the character of our citizens so that they are not, hoodwinked, bamboozled,
or led astray, run amok.
Or run amok.
Yeah.
All right, my brother. It's hot. It's hot up in here.
So, but Bobby, like something you said about the character of the country and all of that stuff, when I was, a teenager, or when I was in my early 20s and that kind of thing, basically up until I got probably north of 25 years old, because you're busy, you're working, you may have young children and all that stuff. Right. I still made sure that I voted, right? But like you said, we didn't have access to information like they do today. But just as easily as they have access to information, they also have access to misinformation and disinformation. So it really plays itself out. I mean, it really, to me, just cancels itself out. I don't know what is out there, more actual good information or misinformation and disinformation. But let me tell you, Bobby, one of the things that I did, one thing that I did, when I was in my teens or south of 25, maybe even south of 30 sometimes, is that I would find men and women that look like me and you, got a little bit of this gray in the beard and all that kind of stuff, and say, hey, let me ask you something, right? Who should I vote for? Because, they have even separated or they have even pinned generations against each other. Yes, so, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I have never, the way that I see how the millennials, how they feel about, as they say, the boomers, the baby boomers, it is ridiculous. The kind of, they feel that they took everything and all that. So that is being played. It is being played on all of these, on Twitter and some of these other ones, social mediums, and it's working. We have to understand We have to stop looking at how silly things are, and we have to start admitting, yes, it looks silly to us, but this stuff is working. And so
It's working.
therefore these young people, they don't even know if you're falling for misinformation and disinformation, you probably don't know that you're falling for it, right? Because if you knew better, you would do better, right? But they don't, because of the dissension, or the the pinning against each other. They don't like, when we were that age, we had no problem going and ask people, who look north of 45, 50 years old, about who are you voting for and who should I vote for. Now, no, man, they're not with that. They're not with coming up to brothers like me and you saying, hey brother, who are you voting for? Because look, I've been working, I've been studying, or I've been raising these kids or whatever, or all the above, and I just don't have time. But you know what? I trust you. I trust you. It is more about I and me than it are about we and us, and that's so when you say the character of the country, I wanted to add that in.
I agree, my brother. Well, we're gonna get into the spotlight.
Oh yeah, we do got the spotlight coming up. I tell you, because we'll talk about this. It'll be an hour and a half later. Hit your spotlight, Rodney. Yep, hit your spotlight, buddy.
Well, my brother. Well, today was going to be about education, as you had said. We were had as our guest the AVP at Clark Atlanta University for Governmental Affairs, Marshall Taggart, and so we looked into the education policies on the Project 2025, my friend. And let me just give you an overview.
Yes, sir.
The basic finding is that it limits access to quality education for Black students. Bottom line, that's the headline. Project 2025 will exacerbate the education and wealth gap for Black students and workers by dismantling the Department of Education, expanding the ongoing coordinated attack on truth in schools and libraries, and making higher education even more inaccessible for Black students by privatizing student loans and eliminating student loan forgiveness programs. That's the philosophy. Threats to education and childcare, because education, we got different age levels. The foundation of early childhood education and childcare support is also under siege with Project 2025. Federal funding cuts to programs such as Head Start and child care subsidies could severely limit access to quality early education. This would disproportionately affect children from low-income families, widening the education achievement gap and hindering long-term socioeconomic mobility for the next generation, maintaining poverty. You hear that? Maintaining poverty. Project 2025's education agenda proposes a drastic overhaul of the federal education policy, from early childhood through higher education. It reaches all age groups. Here's just a sample of Project 2025's educational-related recommendations. Dismantle the U.S. Department of Education, as I said. Eliminate the Head Start programs for young children in poverty. Discontinue Title I program that provides federal funding to schools serving low-income children. That's all communities, but not just Black kids. There's a lot more poor white kids than poor Black kids in this country. It would rescind federal civil rights protections for LGBTQ plus students. That part of that attack. It'll undercut federal capacity to enforce civil rights laws in the area of education. Reduces federal funding for students with disabilities and remove guardrails designed to ensure that these children are adequately served by schools. That's just mean. That's not Christian. It'll promote universal private school choice and privatize the federal student loan portfolio. And part of that privatization is giving vouchers, taking tax money, giving vouchers so kids can go to private schools. And that's the crux of it, my brother. It's a basic attack on child care, which is important for young parents who need to work, have their kids taken care of while they're trying to earn a living to keep the family together. It's a disgrace. And for anybody to tell me that you're a Christian conservative and you're anything Christian, this is definitely not the teachings of Jesus. I don't know where they get this from.
Sometimes I think the word Christian in America is used as some kind of pejorative. I just don't I don't get it, because nothing matches up with the teachings of Christ, like you're saying. And so I don't know, man. But yeah, Rodney, they want to dismantle the Department of Education, like you said. And how what are people voting on? I don't get it. Everybody, just the entire country is nearly touched by our public education system. And I think there's a swath of people who may believe that it is not going to apply to them.
Oh, it will, my brother.
I know,
It
but I'm
will.
just saying, I'm talking about what they may believe.
Exactly.
Because
They're
it,
misinformed. Because they think that these policies are targeted to folks that look like you and I.
yeah,
But there's going to be collateral damage in their community also. Not just the black kids going to be affected by this, my friend.
Rodney, it's not even going to be collateral damage. It's going to be direct damage done to them.
Yes.
But
Yes.
again, if you believe that you belong to some kind of group, it's just not the case. But again, and look, and I think the Democratic Party, I think that even the mainstream media, to a certain extent, I think they've done a pretty decent job of getting out the message about this
Yes.
Project 2025.
Yes.
Has it died down a bit? Yes. But we keeping it ramped up here, and there's a
Bro,
lot
we
of
gotta
other
keep
people
it in
that's
the
there's
public
other
eye.
people that's keeping it in the public eye. But again, the whole Project 2025, the hollering about it started on these kinds of platforms.
Yes, sir.
And then
Yes,
the
sir.
mainstream media is like, well, let's jump on it. But so people know about Project 2025. People, I think, have been convinced that maybe it just doesn't apply to them, or that when these policies of Project 2025 kick in, maybe they feel that it doesn't apply to them, because I don't know,
Right.
man.
Well, it goes back to misinformation, and you've got to read. I mean, this thing is 922 pages, my brother. I mean, every time we go over a section, man, I'm like pulling my hair out what little I got left. Like, oh my God, we have to go through this again. But the devil's in the details, and they put it in a book. They had the audacity to put it in a book, and it goes to the heart of what they think about the American public. That's what it tells me. That you were so bold as to put this in writing and think that a majority of Americans would want this as a policy for their country, which is dismantling the government from within. They said that America is not going to be taken down by external forces.
That's
It's
right.
going to be taken down by internal force, the enemy from within.
Yes.
And if that's not the enemy from within, then I don't know what it would be.
I don't know if America is old enough to be considered a great civilization, but
No,
I would
sir.
tell you that is how all or most great civilizations were taken down,
That's
from
correct.
within.
That's correct.
It's not. It's
That's
hardly
correct.
ever from without. It's from within. You see what's happening in they tried to take out Ukraine from without, right? And you
Yes.
see, how those people came together. Sometimes, might is mightier than the sword, man.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
so yeah, it'll definitely be from within, and like you've said and you've been saying longer than me, is that the revolution won't be televised, brother. And
No,
so
sir.
I don't know what people sitting around waiting on, but you're absolutely right.
No.
It is crazy. I'm at a place right now where people are running out of excuses to to support Donald Trump and Project 2025. They're running out of excuses. And I say that because supposedly, the number one issue is the economy. And right now, man, you can't really ask for a better economy. What's happening, at least the way the arrows are pointing.
Oh,
The
yes, sir.
arrows are
Absolutely.
pointing in great places for the economy. Wall Street is booming, way over 40,000. Grocery prices are going down, and it's
Yes, sir.
obvious. You can see it.
Yes.
Gas, I just filled up my car today. Gas is
Under
very
$3 a gallon.
under three, quite a bit under
$2.71
three.
for
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
$2.71 was I paid.
Yeah, and so gas is down. The jobs report on what was the last Friday that came out was
254,000.
Yeah, like 70 something thousand more than what they projected. So if it's the economy stupid, then what's Rodney? They're running out. People are running out of excuses, man.
Well, you talk about the economy. People have short memories. When the Biden-Harris administration took over, we had lost 13 million jobs. They were dead bodies in freezer containers sitting outside. There were mass graves being done. Okay, 1 million people died because that was mismanaged. Okay, and a majority of I'm sorry, but my friends across the aisle did not support the bills that were passed to get us out of this mess that happened in the first 2 years of the Biden-Harris administration. Now we're seeing the results of that. It takes time. This was an international pandemic. America wasn't the only country that was affected by this, and our economy right now is pulling other countries' economy out of the doldrums. We are leading the world in in coming back. So people need to stop, think, do your homework. Remember where you came from. And you can't put a person in charge of this economy that has a record of bankrupting his own companies. Come on, man. This is common sense, bro. This is not something I'm making up. These are facts. So I don't know what you're being told. I don't know how you're being hoodwinked. But the truth of the matter is that if my former vice president said to me he can't support me for re-election, if my national security advisor said I'm a threat to national security, my military leader who worked for me said, we're not going to bow to a dictator or wannabe dictator. What more do you need? And these are Republicans talking this, telling us about what this man is about. This is not Democrats. These are people who worked for him. If you're not going to listen to those folks, then you're lost. You're just lost. I don't know what else to say, my brother.
And that's who's beating him up publicly most. It's Republicans.
Yes,
people who have worked for him are out there beating him up. Democrats are kind of staying away from a lot of that stuff. They just talking about maybe the lies he's telling, the lies he's telling and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, they will talk about the lies he's telling, but it's the Republicans that are really just beating him down because he deserved it. And so Donald Trump is talking to, right now, his campaign is talking to two types of people. They're talking to very loudly to the low information voter. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they are talking to racists. Mm-hmm. That's who he's depending on to bring him over the top. Right. And if you want to be considered, look, I'm not trying to say, well, if you're voting for Donald Trump, then you're a racist or you're a low information voter. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just telling you who he's targeting. Correct. Because that's a fact. We can't argue with that. That's who he's targeting. That's who he's been targeting, for his entire campaign. The Democrats, even target low information voters, but usually it's for a very different reason, and it's at the very end to get them the information. See, if a low information voter, you can look at that. You can look at that phrase and look at it two ways. A low information voter could be a voter like what you and I talked about, Rodney, about that single person that's working 2 or 3 jobs. They got young kids. They are low information because they just don't have time, right? But then you have low information voters who want to believe stuff that is, in other words, they have time, right? And they reach for low hanging fruit. Right? Yes, they look for headlines and those kind of things because they're trying to match up what their ideology is or what they want to believe. And so the Democrats have a tendency to go after the low information voter who have a very busy life, young kids, doing a lot. They just don't have access to the information. So they try to go after them and feed them that information. And the Republicans, in my opinion, tends to go after those other kinds of low information voters. So all I'm saying to you is that the excuses are running out. Like I said, I can't wait till after this election. I can't wait to look at the numbers because you know me, I'm a numbers person. That might need to be, if Donald Trump win this election, there needs to be a serious referendum on America itself, because for so many people to choose that kind of morally, for people to choose that kind of person, it is really time for us to pin the skin off the onion, Rodney, and really have a real discussion in America about what's really happening.
Well, since this is the Black Man's Roundtable, let's be real. If a black woman or black man had served in the White House as the chief officer for this country and had committed
the chief executive, yes sir,
yes, and had committed an insurrection, everybody saw it with their own eyes. It's not a doubt, and the Constitution clearly states that that person is ineligible to run for public office, let alone president.
That's right.
And the Board of Elections exercised their authority based upon that Constitution and would not permit this person to be on the ballot. But somehow the judicial system overruled that. We got a problem in this country. Because I'm telling you, had it been a black woman or a black man, there's no way they would be the nominee of any major party today. So this is based upon what we had said earlier. It has to do with race. So I think it's important, particularly black men. We have to be looking out for our community, our families. And if we're going to do that, we have to do our homework and look ourselves in the face and say, what is best for me, my family, and my community this election? And forget about color, forget about divide line. Just look at the policy and the character of the person you're voting for, period. And it's not a difficult decision. It's not a difficult decision. It's America or party. Which one are you going to vote for?
Before you wrap it up, Rodney, I want to say, I want to look black men dead in their eyes. And I want for black men to understand that some of the pettiness and excuses that I've heard, some of the misogyny that I've heard coming out of brothers' mouths about Kamala Harris, and about the lifting up of Donald Trump because he parades around with gold shoes or he won't put them on. He'll let you put them on with gold sneakers and $100,000 watches. I guarantee you, this man got a Timex on his arm, on his wrist. I'm looking black men right in the eyes to say, those boys, those black boys, those black sons and nephews and grandsons, they're looking at us.
That's correct.
They're looking at us. They're going to, not only are they looking at us right now, they're going to look back at us. Correct. And they're going to say, you guys voted for that?
Yeah.
Imagine trying to tell, if you're a 25-year-old young man right now and you talking this crap, imagine trying to talk to your grandson, 35, 40 years from now, whatever, and you have to explain to him that he's in this situation because of you and your generation. So before you wrap it up right now, I just got to get that out there. We only got a couple of more shows, man. I think we only got, one more show, one or two more shows before the election. And we may have to do this again on the next episode, and just have to just really keep it real and look some folks in the eyes, man, and just tell them, man, what time it is. Stop the crap, brother. Don't come to me with it. I'm not trying to hear it. So yeah. But Rodney, I guess you can, if you don't have anything, brother, I guess we can wrap it up, man.
No, but
It's been a long day for
brother.
both of us too, and
Yes,
and
sir. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
so we like to try to end stuff, on a happier note or
Yes,
whatever.
sir.
But man, it's like you said, it's hot. This stuff is serious, man.
Yes, sir. Well, on a happy note, I have confidence in the voters in this country that they are going to do the right thing, as Spike Lee would say, and they're going to put country first, and they're going to think about the future generations that they would be leaving this country in if they didn't put this sister in the White House with Mr. Walz, Governor Walz.
Yes, sir.
And without trying to be partisan, it ain't about partisanship, bro. It's about the survival of this nation as we would like for it to be.
Yes, sir. Wrap it up for us, Rodney.
Yeah, right, man. Well, listen, it was great chopping it up with you, my brother.
Always,
this was the
man.
Rodney show tonight,
Yes,
the
sir.
Roundup, and we'll see you we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Before the election. Just remember that early voting starts in Georgia October 15th. It's too late to try to register. That was Monday the 7th of October. But now you think about early voting starting October 15th. Get in early and don't depend upon the mail. Get there and vote early. All right, my brother. This is, until next time, we're going to keep it real. This is the Roundup with Rodney and Rodney.
Till next time, brother. Peace. Don't forget to check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you have show ideas or want to be on the show? Shoot us an email at blackmansroundtable@gmail.com. And please follow us on Facebook.